Hey fam, so I'm sure you can read the title, but today in this video I'm going to be ranking the best, or at least my favorite, Got7 VLive streams. So there are several Got7 live streams I've wanted to make edits of and devote entire videos to because of how funny they are, but I've never quite been able to make an edit that I really enjoy, so I end up scrapping them. But after recently ranking Got7's eras, I realized that a fun way to highlight their best streams would be to do a ranking. I also thought this might be a useful guide to Ahgase who don't really know where to start with the massive amount of streams Got7 has done, so consider this my list of suggested or recommended Got7 VLives to watch if you don't know where to start. A few guidelines before I jump into my ranking. For this list, I'm dealing with just their normal VLive streams. Nothing pre-recorded like the Hard Carry series, which they also post to the channel, nothing from VLive Plus because you have to pay for it, and also none of the streams denoted as special. Streams like their Live V or their showcases are fantastic, but the channel already highlights those as important streams, and I want to focus on their normal, unstructured live streams. You know, Got7 in their natural habitat being dorks. That means that their Twitter live stream also isn't here, but that's definitely worth a watch too. And finally, before jumping into the list, no, I haven't seen every single one of their live streams because there are quite literally like 1,000 of them, but I have seen a lot of them, especially the most iconic ones within the fandom. However, when working on this video, I've gone back and watched a ton of the streams that I hadn't already seen, so I really tried to do my due diligence here. All that said, this list is just my personal opinion. It definitely skews toward the ones where they're all together being weird and chaotic, especially since those are the most fun for most fans to watch. But I have thrown in a couple of my favorites that aren't as crazy. There are certainly a lot more worth watching than just the 15 I've included here, and I'm sure there's some really funny underrated one that I missed somewhere in the literal 1,000 live streams, but I did have to cap it off somewhere, and I thought 15 provided enough for a good mix. Okay, enough rambling, let's go ahead and jump into the list, which is going to be a combination of my discussion about the live stream followed by clips from the live stream itself. And links to all of these streams that I'm going to be talking about will be linked down in the description. So this one is one where I think my personal bias really shows, which is why I've put it at the bottom of the list. The majority of this list is them being weird, but this one is just BAAAM at home showing us his cats and getting a little bit deep. He talks a bit about how his home is one of the only places where he feels safe, and he talks about how important it is to him to have a place to just go and get away from such a hectic job, and of course, he plays with his cats. BAAAM's solo VLives are probably my favorites among the group, followed by Jinyoung's, but I honestly can't really put my finger on why. Also, if you like this stream, I'd suggest also checking out the one that he did around the same time talking about how he edits his videos.
푸딩, 저 푸딩 보여줄게요. 푸딩. 내 애기, 내 새끼. 킹 있어요, 여러분. king, say hi to everyone. king. 너무 귀여워, 너무 좋아해, 저 킹. 어때?
This stream kinda has the best of both worlds. They're celebrating their 3rd anniversary, so the first half is pretty low-key. They're talking about their goals for 2017, and it's actually pretty calm for them. And then they start to play a game. It's the game where they have to all make the same pose based on a word that they're given, and it's predictably a mess. But a hilarious one, as always. It's also important to note that the stream got cut off at the end on accident, so there are 2 parts to this live stream, and you really don't want to miss that second part because it's possibly the best ending of any Got7 live stream. This stream really just goes from calm to full chaos Got7 by the end, and it is hilarious.
I'm 4 out. Time out. 6 out. 7 out. 8 out. 9 out.
Got7 live streams from their hotel rooms are usually pretty fun, and this one is no exception. They're all there except for Jackson, who either had a different schedule or was sick, I can't remember, and the stream is basically JJ Project and the kids. This is where Youngjae's iconic English class moment comes from. BAAAM and Yugyeom are screaming their most recent favorite English phrase. JB is complaining that they aren't showing him, and Jinyoung is just trying to control the chaos. It's near the bottom of the list simply because they aren't as silly and weird here as they are on some other streams, which I think just speaks to how chaotic things are gonna get on this list.
Peace out.
Pizza.
Pizza. Pizza. Pizza.
Pizza.
Wasabi.
Wasabi.
Pizza. Pizza.
드디어 가까이.
Pizza. Pizza.
This was one of the ones that immediately came to mind when I started making this list, but I wasn't sure if the rest of the stream would live up to the iconic moments I remembered. Fortunately, it did. This one is only about 7 minutes long, but it's 7 minutes of Got7 being an unfiltered mess. There are several instances of Got7's iconic I'm out attempts, some shoutouts to Brazil and the Philippines because it's not a Got7 stream if they don't say hi to Brazil, and their ever-constant 3-line poems and general chaos and screaming. So much chaos and screaming. Seriously, 3-line poems are like a recipe for chaos in Got7 live streams. I'm pretty sure that they do them in at least half of the streams on this list.
Hi, say hi to Brazil. Say hi to Brazil. Hi, Brazil. Hi, Philippines. Hi, Brazil. I'm out. I'm too out. 3 out. 4 out. 5 out.
I think that by the time this stream was over, Ahgase were already memeing moments from it. It's not an especially weird or chaotic stream, but there are just so many funny little moments throughout it that are now just woven into the fandom. Most of the stream is Jackson, Mark, and Yugyeom, but the other members are just out of frame and are causing disruptions, as they always do. BAAAM shows Jackson how he turned his face into the Google logo on his Instagram story. Jinyoung and JB are playing music in the background and annoying Jackson with it. And of course, when Mark arrives, he says,
What's up, everybody?
in like the weirdest version of a southern accent I've ever heard. And of course, the that will never die. This is just a really fun one across the board. Although the majority of this stream is pretty low-key, I couldn't leave this one off because it includes possibly the most iconic moment from any of their live streams ever, which is Youngjae using Coco to spoil the hook of Fly. Mark also helps him to speak a little bit of English later in the stream, which is one of my personal favorites, but a lot of the stream is just them and BAAAM running around playing with Coco, which is really cute.
We gonna fly. 야! 스포일러 됐어! 스포일러 됐어! 스포일러 됐어! 스포일러 됐어!
To celebrate 5 million followers on VLive, Got7 did a live stream in a pool, because that couldn't go wrong. As expected, chaos ensued. The obvious downside of this stream is that the audio is awful because whatever room the pool was in had like the worst sound quality ever, so you may want to watch this one with the volume low, but the lols are fantastic. They goof around, they jokingly shove each other underwater, they play games, they try to play chicken, and it doesn't go well. So overall, even though the sound is definitely a bit of an issue, it is still one of their funniest live streams and definitely worth a watch. So I'll give you a little look behind the curtain on the making of this video. On one of many scroll-throughs I did of their VLive channel, I created a document listing all of the streams where all 7 of them were together, and then I started watching through them. And about halfway through this one, I was considering including it because they were being weird and having a high note competition and doing 3-line poems, and it was just really silly. And then they started spoiling the titles of the songs on flight log arrival. I'd seen clips of this moment before, but I didn't realize it was on this stream. And when I realized that, it bumped it all the way up to right here on the list, because not only were they having all of those weird, silly moments in the first half, but the second half was them being their spoilery selves, and it was really funny.
I'm so sorry.
아 여기 밑에 쇼핑몰 있지.
아 맞아.
I'm too out. I'm out.
야 지금 벌써 앨범 스포일러 다 했어요 지금.
When BAAAM starts a live stream with his favorite inside joke making fun of Gyeomie, you know that this is going to be a fun one. They spend the rest of the stream making up raps with a slight tangent into discussing farts, and then another moment where Jackson takes BAAAM out of frame to tackle him on the other bed, just for the other members to turn around the camera onto the two of them, and Jackson to tell them not to film him. It's just chaos. I don't really have a good read on how well loved or underrated this stream is for the general fandom, but for me, this has been one of my favorite of their live streams ever since it happened last year. It's a bit more laid back than some of the streams on this list, but there are so many little gems scattered throughout it. BAAAM doesn't want to show his makeup, so he's constantly hovering somewhere just outside of the frame and being weird, saying random things, and in one case doing a walking handstand through the background. Another of my personal favorite moments is JJ Project having two entirely separate conversations answering questions in the chat. JB is just answering the questions normally, while Jinyoung is being silly and also answering questions in Japanese. Honestly, BAAAM ends up being the star of this live stream despite the fact that he's out of frame for almost all of it.
필터 낀가? 아니요.
아니 우리 잘생겼어. No filter.
They're in Chicago for this one, and it leads to one of my favorite things that Youngjae has ever said.
I got another hot dog.
Mark drops their manager's phone and screaming ensues. At one point, Jackson literally mounts Jinyoung. They attempt to bow and start pushing each other over. And on top of all that chaos, they're making up raps and screaming after every single one. It's really fun and just one of those streams where there isn't any dead air. It's just fun from beginning to end.
Oh my goodness!
우리 매니저 누나 핸드폰 부셔질 뻔했어.
This is the most recent one on the list, and it's just literally Got7 sitting in a closet and being their loud, weird, silly selves. The stream starts calmly enough, but then they start playing with VLive's filters and the chaos begins. Soon, they're all screaming and shooting lasers from their eyes. The stream starts with everyone except Jinyoung and Youngjae, but soon after they start playing with filters, Jinyoung comes in wondering why they're making so much noise, and immediately joins them in this weird screaming closet. It had been a little while since they had a stream this chaotic, so it was really fun seeing them annoying each other and goofing around for literally half an hour. And I say literally half an hour because this is one of the longest streams on this list, and they're legitimately just screaming for almost half an hour.
여러분 우리 컴백 봤어요?
No.
여러분 갓7 좋아해요?
No.
This one has always been one of my favorite Got7 live streams, not only because it has some absolutely iconic moments, but because there are multiple different sections of it, and somehow all of them are equally hilarious. The stream starts pretty low-key, with Jinyoung and JB just talking, but it quickly devolves into chaos as they're being constantly interrupted by the other members. Yugyeom walks behind them and yells, and then Mark chimes in and they just keep making noise in the background and you can visibly see JB's patience getting thinner and thinner. Then most of them jump into frame and start reading comments, and Yugyeom continues his weirdness, annoying Jinyoung, reading comments in a weird way. And then it all culminates in Yugyeom yelling. And then the chaos ensues from him accidentally speaking to JB casually. Honestly, what did they even feed Yugyeom that day?
안녕하세요. 제 프로젝트입니다. shakeit&shakeitforme.
정말 재밌는데 유겸이 바보.
맞아요. 주먹이도 바보.
Not only is this one of their most chaotic live streams ever, but it's also extremely nostalgic for me. When I first got into Got7 before I even knew what VLive was, one of the first videos that got me into them was an edit of this live stream. The stream doubles as both their celebration of 2 million followers on VLive and the countdown to the release of Flightlog Turbulence. And the edit that I mentioned of this stream is called What Happens When JYP Gives Got7 Too Many Sweets? For a reason. Jackson, Mark, and BAAAM are all sitting together, they're all hyper, and Jackson is forcing Youngjae into his antics solely because he's the one most within grabbing distance. Honestly, I'm not sure I've ever seen Jackson as hyper as he is in this stream. He's yelling and screaming and jumping up and down, and his energy is spreading to everyone around him, and somehow he keeps up that same energy all stream. And even the three on the other side of the couch, Yugyeom, JB, and Jinyoung, all have their own moments, with Yugyeom referencing his new favorite meme of the moment and hit the stage, Jinyoung constantly antagonizing JB, and JB being forced to do aegyo and then interrupting Mark at like the most crucial moment of the stream. Every single one of them has some weird moment thrown in, and it's truly just hilarious, from Jackson's first scream of the stream to BAAAM jumping over a table for some reason. I feel like this was a given and was really obvious, but this little slice of perfection gets first place. It's literally only like 8 minutes long, but every single second is packed with Got7 being the weirdest version of Got7 that they've ever been. Mark spends half of the live stream making the same weird face over and over. They play high stakes rock, paper, scissors for the millionth time, which leads to JB literally just flailing on the ground and then getting icing spread all over his face. Jinyoung nearly sets the building on fire, Jackson chokes while trying to say Hyung, chasing and chaos ensue. This is not only my favorite Got7 live stream, but possibly just my favorite thing Got7 has ever done. It makes me cry laugh every single time I watch it because I never fail to notice some other little random detail, like their staff trying to stay hidden and some random person standing at the edge of the stage. I love this stream so much I made a whole edit of it where I put in a meme every time they were weird, and there were over 70 memes. Like, it's just chaos. Pure Got7 chaos, and I love that about it.
이거 하기 전에 좀 먹을게. 한 명씩.
너무 좋아.
So those are my top 15 Got7 VLive streams. This list took so long to accumulate, mostly because I was trying to make sure I watched as many streams as possible so that I wasn't missing any glaring streams. But there are just so many fantastic Got7 live streams, and many, many more than the ones that I talked about on this list. So that is it for this video. Let me know down in the comments what some of your favorite Got7 VLive streams are. I would love to know. There are so many more that I wish I could include, but I also wanted to keep this list pretty succinct. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.